ESPN presents Budweiser Racing Across America. Brought to you by Budweiser. Beach what age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By the Thoroughbred Racing Association, assuring the highest racing standards. By Thrifty Car Rental. Thrifty is a lot of car rental company for incredibly little. By DeBartolo Racing, leading the way to the 21st century. And by the Breeders' Cup Racing's $10 million championship. We're live at the Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky. And coming up next on ESPN, the 7th running of the Lexington Stakes. Nowhere are the dreams of future thoroughbred champions more real or more important than here. At historic area farms like Old Hamburg Place, these traditions date back into the last century. This barn was the birthplace for 5 Kentucky Derby winners: Old Rosebud, Paul Jones, Sir Barton, the sport's first Triple Crown winner, Zev, and Flying Ebony. And in this barn, a foal was born that would be named Ali Shiva. He would go on to become racing's all-time leading money earner. As is the tradition at Hamburg Place, this bell rings to mark its major stakes winners, to celebrate the dreams that come true. It rings for everyone, though, here in Lexington, Kentucky, America's home of thoroughbred racing. And a racing victory bell like that may be ringing later this afternoon, here for someone to celebrate a win in the Lexington Stakes, Keeneland's final major 3-year-old race of the spring meeting. And hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lincoln as we welcome you to Lexington, Kentucky. And for those of us on Budweiser Racing Across America, a quick turnaround from Arkansas Derby Day at Oaklawn Park in Hot Springs. Today, a beautiful day in Lexington, Kentucky for the running of the Lexington Stakes. Let's take a look at the conditions of racing now. The Lexington in its 7th running is a Grade 2 event. The purse $100,000 added. The 3-year-olds go a mile and a 16th on a fast track and a beautiful day. And it's been a wet and cold spring here in Lexington. They've welcomed this pretty weather for their final week as the meet closes here on Friday. For us, it is our 6th event of the 3-year-olds. Taking a look as they get ready for the Derby. Our experts, Dave Johnson and Charles C. Candy, have been busy chasing these 3-year-olds as well. Let's join them now for perspective on this field.
Well, Charles, if thoroughbred racing had a draft for the Triple Crown like the NFL did yesterday, do you think Smelly would go in the first round?
Well, he'd sure go early, Dave. A horse with his varied offensive capabilities. He's got speed, but he can be rated. He's run on all kinds of track conditions. He's proven at the distance, and he can carry the weight. In fact, his past performances are a whole lot more attractive than his odiferous moniker, which he inherited from his sire, Judge Smells.
But, you know, what he does here today is certainly going to determine whether he takes that 80-mile trip west on I-64. And speaking of roads, there's only 80 miles left to the road to the Kentucky Derby, but we've been asking questions of these horses since, well, Calder, I guess, and the Tropical Park Derby early in January.
These colts must feel like they've been through an SAT series. And even today, the connections of these 3-year-olds will be finding out just exactly what kind of horse they've got and where they're going from here.
But in addition to the where and the what, how about the why? Because some connections, well, they're looking for a ticket to the dance in Louisville a week from Saturday, but others are just looking for that big purse.
Well, 2 of them aren't even nominated to the Triple Crown, and that's Home at Last and Slingshot, so they certainly won't be going up the road.
Well, let's take a look at the full field for the Lexington and pay particular attention to the weight assignments. We'll also see who the jockeys are and what the morning line is. We start at the rail with 30 slews. Eddie Delahousie rides, and 4.5 to 1. Then the starting morning line favorite at 5 to 2. Number 2, Smelly, with Jean Cruguet. 3 is Slew of Angels with Ricardo Lopez, starting at 6. The 4-horse, Big Easy with Jorge Velazquez, 12 to 1. Home at Last, the 5 with Jerry Bailey at 5. Armed for Peace with Jesse Garcia, 20 to 1. Cordoba, the 7 with Jose Santos, starts at 4 to 1. Slingshot, longest in the morning line at 30 to 1 with jockey Dave Penna. And number 9, Pleasant Tap with Kent DeSormo at 6 to 1. Now, what about the weight spread? 9 pounds between Smelly at 121 and 5 of them sitting there at 112.
Well, if any of the lightweights were to win today and still go on to the Kentucky Derby, they have to pick up 14 pounds to carry the classic 126. That's an almost impossible jump in the weights.
So even though we're in the bluegrass, we have many states represented in the field. There are 5 Kentucky breds, plus 1 Florida bred, 1 from Canada, 1 New Jersey bred, and 1 from Virginia, Chris.
All right, Dave, and with me now is the chairman of the board here of Keeneland, the former president of TRA, president now of the Breeders' Cup. Mr. Bassett, our TRA message, what's new with the Thoroughbred Racing Association?
Well, we have something very exciting going on now. We're studying the possibility of bringing the racing fan additional information in the racing program. new company called Equibase, and we hope that we'll be able to supply additional information regarding past performances in the race program itself.
Well, Mr. Bassett, Keeneland's #1 business, of course, is sales. 8 of the last 9 Triple Crown winners are Keeneland sales graduates. Let's take a look at the Kentucky Derby field this year of prospects and some very proud Keeneland sale graduates here.
Well, we've got Summer Squall coming on. We have Silver Ending that just won down into Oaklawn.
Now, I've got to ask you about him. A $1,500 Keeneland sales purchase. Does that make you blush a bit, or how does that make you feel?
That makes me feel pretty good because I think we might have another John Henry. We've got Ron McAnally training him, and he ran a beautiful race at Oaklawn.
He has, and again, congratulations to Keeneland. They've had, by the way, the last 3 Kentucky Derby winners, 12 in all, have been Keeneland sales graduates. I know you're proud of that.
Oh, it is, and we're hoping we've got good opportunity again. This is going to be a very exciting Derby.
Ted, thank you very much. Part of the crowd of 15,000 here on a beautiful afternoon at Keeneland.
Lexington Stakes, one of the last of the Kentucky Derby preps, is about to happen. You know, Mr. Frisky's undefeated record has everyone recalling Seattle Slew's incredible undefeated trip through the Triple Crown. Today, he's represented by 3 of his grandsons. It hardly seems possible. Right now, Chris Lincoln has the story of this prominent stallion.
The championship blood of 1977 Triple Crown winner Seattle Slew is the dominant sire line in this year's Lexington Stakes. Ronald Combs II syndicated Seattle Slew after his final year of racing in 1978. Talk with us about his syndicate value.
At Seattle Slew's zenith at Spendthrift, the shares were selling for approximately close to $3 million was the top price, which would have made his total value about $120 million.
Just 9 miles from Keeneland Racecourse is 3 Chimneys Farm, the home of Seattle Slew, and of his most famous son, another top sire, Slew of Gold. Farm owner Robert Clay on his stallion superstar, Seattle Slew.
Well, Chrissy's establishing himself as a sire of sires. He's already had 9 sons that have gone on to produce stakes horses, the leading one of which is Slew of Gold, who's had 5 Group 1 winners already, 4 in his first crop. And I think that he may be considered within the breed as beginning to have an influence as a sire of sires.
As we take a look at Seattle Slew at your farm at 3 Chimneys, hard to believe now, 16 years old. Let's talk about some of his total numbers here, Robert.
Well, Seattle Slew has 27 graded stakes winners. He's had 5 champions, some of which you'll remember, Slew of Gold and Swale, of course. Capote was a 2-year-old champion. Landaloo's also a 2-year-old champion, and he has a European champion named Aggression that is a possible English Derby contender this year. He's sired winners of over $22.5 million, so he's had quite a career through age 16.
At the Keeneland sales last year, Seattle Slew yearlings averaged $330,000, while Slew of Gold had a median price of $125,000. Talking about the Slew line influence in breeding, Keeneland's director of sales, Rogers Beasley.
Well, I think it's becoming more and more obvious that Seattle Slew is becoming a sire of sires. I mean, Slew of Gold, Sloopy, several others have gone on to be legitimate racehorses, good sires, and sire stake winners in their own rights. And that's what you're looking for in a top stallion. And Seattle Slew's certainly proven that from a sales viewpoint and from a racing viewpoint.
And just as Bold Ruler dominated the decade of the 60s, and as Northern Dancer and the Rays and Native Line led the way in the sales rings of the 70s and the 80s, it appears Seattle Slew is ready to be a dominant force in the stallion ranks of the new decade of the 1990s. Let's go back now to the walking ring area and Charles C. Candy.
Well, thank you, Chris. You know, in the music, country and western music industry, crossover artists are pretty successful. The same thing's true in the horse business. This is Jim Day, former, I have to read this because it's so good, 2-time Olympic show jumping gold medalist turned multiple Canadian champion trainer. Jim, you're here with a relatively unknown colt in these parts called Slew of Angels. Even though he's never been off the board, we don't know a lot about him.
Well, Charles, he's had a fairly light racing campaign. He didn't start till late last fall, and then he ends up winning a small stake at Tampa Bay at the end of the year. And he had 2 races which he wasn't quite ready for, including the Tampa Derby about 5 weeks ago. And I think he's been training very well here at Keeneland, and he's in pretty good shape. We scratched him from the bluegrass the other day because it was muddy, and now is his chance to make his mark in the world and hopefully lead us on to Churchill.
Right, well, in his last start, which was the Tampa Bay Derby, he's a big colt and looks like he's really come into himself. He's by Slew of Gold, we might point out, and here he is against Champagne for Ashley in the stretch along the rail there, Jim.
Well, Charles, he was probably getting a little tired at this point in the race, And also, Champagne for Ashley was coming over on him a little bit. And about the last 70 yards, you'll see here that Ricardo Lopez has to stand up on him and really take a hold of him with the last 70 yards with wide clipping heels. And he was going to probably finish second anyhow, but would have been a little better second, probably beaten half a length or a neck.
What would you say he'd have to show you this afternoon to make you take him to the Kentucky Derby?
I think off his training, the way he's been acting, if he can't run very well today and should win, if he can't win today, he should will probably take a different route and go maybe to the Derby up in Chicago, Illinois, or make it back to Canada. But to go on to Churchill, he'd have to probably run a big race and should win today.
All right, well, all the best as you try it. Always have to respect anything trained by Jim Day. Chris, back to you.
Thank you, Chauncey. Look at some of the beautiful thoroughbred farms all over the area here surrounding Keeneland Race Course. Slough of Angels Course, one of the grandsons of Seattle Slough, as is 30 Slough, another horse we're going to spotlight. You know, in thoroughbred racing, as in life, not everything is as it appears. Well, that's certainly one of the stories that Dave Johnson found on the backside here at Keeneland.
Now, here's the situation. Important stakes race. Trainer formerly in the quarter horse business, gray hair, dark glasses, starting one of the favorites, Wayne Lucas, right? Nope. It's Bob Baffert. And yes, he's often asked about the similarities.
I think I get that question asked about every day. And it'd be a tough way to follow a man and what he's done in the business, but it's always a thought. It's good to know, let people know that I would go in that direction.
Baffert started in the thoroughbred business a couple of years ago during a quarter horse career that includes a regular spot among the national leaders and a world championship. And it was right here at the Keeneland sales in the fall of 1988 that he discovered 30 Sloughs and went into action.
So I walked in the ring and I just sat there, and he went up to about 20, 25. He got hung up, so I stepped in there, and believe me, when I hit him at 30,000, that was my last bid. And then when the guy came over to sign the ticket, I didn't have an owner in mind, so it took me about 2 minutes to sign that ticket. I was shaking a little bit, thinking, what am I going to do with him now? And it's worked out. I'm glad I held on to him.
Actually, Baffert held on to a third of him, selling the rest to longtime quarter horse clients James Streelman and Dennis Bohr. They are admittedly battling a case of Derby fever after only 2 front-running sprint victories at Santa Anita. But the trainer thinks 30 Sloughs may be competitive enough to make the transitions necessary to enter the big 3-year-old picture.
He does everything in a big way, and he has this huge stride. He's a big, powerful horse. And what he does, he intimidates a lot of horses that go with him. Any horse that goes with him, you won't see him near the finish line, because that's the kind of horse he is. He's very intimidating. He's a big horse. He's California. He went to fractions 21-3 and still had plenty left in the tank, and that's the reason we're hoping that he can stretch out.
Now, Baffert knows that it's a long way from his Arizona beginnings to major stakes company in Kentucky. But then, he wouldn't be the first to make such a transition. And so far, things aren't looking too bad.
And there is 30 Sloughs to be saddled by young quarter horse trainer. There he is, Bobby Baffert, the first time he's saddled a thoroughbred in Kentucky. He's checking his watch. Bobby is getting close to race number 8, the Lexington Stakes. We'll be right back. A few moments away from the 8th race. As Bobby Baffert, by the way, wanted to let you know this is not only the first time he's saddled a thoroughbred, which he's doing right now in Kentucky, it is also the first time in his life that he has ever worn a necktie to saddle a horse. His quarter horse trainer is dressed up here at Keeneland today and got a letter from his friends at Quarter Week magazine presenting him with a tie to wear today for this race. Well, we have quite a Kentucky touch, a quarter horse touch. Now we need a bit of a foreign touch for this field. And Charles C. Candy has that story for us now of another Lexington starter.
When Arab-owned horses appear in America, they're usually older horses, racing on the turf later in the year. Today, we have an exception. A 3-year-old colt in the spring, campaigning on the dirt. Racing in the maroon silks of Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum is this handsome sophomore colt named Cordoba, and he's 2 for 2 since returning home. Bred here in Kentucky, Cordoba actually launched his career at Newmarket, England with great promise. but then was beaten in 2 important group races. It was felt he would be better suited to American racing, and it was then that Cordoba found he could go home again. Despite stumbling badly at the start, he just galloped in his dirt debut at Gulfstream in March. Then the son of El Gran Senor did it again right here at Keeneland 3 weeks ago, going 7 furlongs. This time he was away cleanly and raced closer to the pace, then just drew away from his field once more. Today, Jose Santos will be back on board as Cordoba seeks his first stakes victory. And there you see Cordoba circling the tree. He's been saddled by Randy Schulhofer right there in your pictures, deputizing for his father, Scotty Schulhofer, who remained in New York. Cordoba will, of course, today be facing his toughest test. It's his first time around 2 turns. This is the toughest field he's tackled. But regardless of how he runs today, it has been decided that he will not contest the Kentucky Derby. Even if he should win today, he's being pointed for the Withers Stakes. A lovely, good-moving colt. To see how the public like him and everyone else in the field, let's go upstairs to Dave Johnson and the latest odds.
Well, let's take a look at the tote board. And we see that the 30 Slews is at 3-1. And the co-favorite there with number 2 Smelly. Slew of Angels is at 8, as is Big Easy. Home at Last started at 5, is up to 11-1. The number 6 horse, Home or Armed for Peace, is up to 30. Cordoba is now the favorite at 5-2. How about that? Cordoba at 5-2. Slingshot up to 50, the longest price on the board. And Pleasant Tap is 9-1. You know, many fans think that Risen Star's performance in the Belmont Stakes of 1988 was the best race by any thoroughbred that year. Well, Risen Star took the Louisiana Derby earlier in the season, but it was here at Keeneland, in this race, the Lexington, that fans across the country really jumped on the bandwagon of Risen Star.
This Claiborne Look Back is brought to you by Claiborne Farm, where for more than a century, a great record reflects our experience.
Turning for home in that 1.16 test on that April afternoon, the favorite, 49er with Pat Day, forged to the front on the fast track. But the same grit, courage, and speed that Risen Star showed in his Preakness and Belmont tallies was evident here. The eventual 3-year-old champion, trained by co-owner Louis Roussel and ridden that day by Jacinto Vasquez, stopped the teletimer in 1 minute 42 4/5 seconds. Risen Star took the Lexington by a nose.
Well, this is Craig Nicholson, the trainer of Smelly. He was watching that Claiborne Look Back, watching Risen Star, and wondering if I could win the Lexington and go on to take the Preakness and the Belmont. Craig, those are big plans. What plans do you have for Smelly? How important is this race for him this afternoon?
Well, a good race. We're definitely leaning towards the Kentucky Derby.
We want to take a look back, Craig, at one of his most impressive races, certainly, the Federico Tessio on a sloppy racetrack in Maryland, and he simply was awesome in this race.
Well, he was under a little pressure the first quarter. After that, he had everything his way, and it seemed like he handled the sloppy going real well.
On the lead, you see the cleanest horse in the field. That's the way to stay. Then he went to the Cherry Hill Mile, had an off track there, but obviously a different off track for him. Did not run like people expected as the favorite. Finished second.
Yes, the winner ran a real good race. Don't want to take any credit away from him, but my horse did not run his race that day in the mud.
Craig, how's he work for this race? Where would you like him to be in this field of 9 in the race?
Well, I'd like to see him break real well. If the one horse wants to lead, he'll have to run to get it, and we should be laying second. Otherwise, we'll be in front.
Surprise you that right now you rate the favorite on the board or a co-favorite?
Well, we expected that.
All right, Craig, best of luck to you today with Smelly, son of Judge Smells, and they're hoping that he'll be smelling some roses maybe in a couple weeks down the road. Craig, good luck to you. And Charles C. Kennedy is going to be joining us in the walking ring when we come back after this break here at the Keeneland Races. And Lexington Stakes is coming up. Ring a bell here. There is no public address system, no race call at Keeneland. And the riders are up. We'll go to the walking ring now and Charles C. Kennedy.
Well, we looked a minute ago at the Risen Star video, and I know you remember this man, Ronnie Lamarck, from the Risen Star days 2 years ago, and you're back now with Big Easy, another New Orleans named horse. Tell me about him. He was second in the Louisiana Derby.
Yes, he was named after the city of New Orleans, the Big Easy, and he's a great horse, great competitor. He's not as good as Star. There was only one Star. but I don't think there's any too many horses that's running this year that could be as good as Star. We're looking forward to him running a big race today. In fact, I'm looking to win it, Charles. He just that's it. I don't think anything else in here scares me. I think we have a great horse, great competitor, bred in the purple, and I feel we're going to win it.
Do we have a great song in case he wins?
I have 2 real good songs, you know, but he's got to win to do it.
We'll save them till after the race. We'll hear them then. Ron,
Thank
good
you,
luck.
everybody
Good to
at
see you
ESPN.
again.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back now to Chris Lincoln.
One of the greatest jobs of interviewing I've ever heard. Charles Steve was able to talk to Ronnie Lamarque and not have him sing. Here's the call to the post for the Lexington Stakes. Old Bucky there is traditionally the bugler here at Keeneland and does a great job all the time. Calling the horses out to the racetrack at Keeneland. Again, it is a fast track here this afternoon, a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Glad you've joined us here live from the Keeneland race course. Let's introduce you now to our field of 9 for the 7th running of the Lexington Stakes. And we'll start with 30 Slews, a $30,000 Keeneland September 88 sale horse, undefeated in only 2 career starts. This is the one trained by Bobby Baffert. You met in that feature earlier. Has never been around 2 turns. This, his first stakes, has always been on the lead in his 2 races. Eddie Delahousie in from California for the ride. The 2 horse is Smelly. Right now, the favorite at 5-2, replacing 30 Slews. They won the Tessio by 10 lengths. You saw in our video and talking to trainer Craig Nicholson. Second in the Cherry Hill Mile by 6.5. Runs best at or near the lead. The veteran Jean Cruguet, who rode Seattle Sleuth, who his Triple Crown, is in the irons. The 3 horses, Slew of Angels. A son of Slew of Gold, has been first, second, or third in all 8 career starts. His most famous race, second in the Tampa Bay Derby. Ricardo Lopez is in the irons for Slew of Angels, leading rider Tampa Bay. And here's Ronnie Lamarque's horse, Big Easy. Keeneland sale purchase $250,000. The select July 88 sale, second Louisiana Derby, runs on or near the lead. The rider, George Velasquez, the newest inductee into racing's Hall of Fame. He's won more than 6,000 races. The 5 horse is Home at Last in the Russell Reineman stable. Won the preview stakes down at Gulfstream Park. Has placed in all 7 stakes for Carl Naskra. Home at Last, ridden today by Jerry Bailey, one of the top national riders, president of the Jockey Guild. The 6 horse is Armed for Peace. $575,000 Keeneland sale horse. This gelded son of Hold Your Peace has placed in all 10 of 11 starts. Didn't handle an off-track at Pimlico in the Tessio, beaten there by more than 32 lengths, hoping to redeem himself today, Armed for Peace. The 7 horse, this is Cordoba from Muhammad Al Maktoum's racing stable, trained by Scotty Schulhofer, has won both starts in this country since coming over from England, making his stakes debut. The first time he's been asked to go past 7 furlongs. Jose Santos is in the irons. The 8 horse is Slingshot, not a Triple Crown nominee, nor is Home at Last. Slingshot, first start outside of Florida, third in the Tampa Bay Downs Premier after breaking his maiden by 5 3/4 at Gulfstream Park, ridden by Dave Penna. And rounding out our field of 9, this is Pleasant Tap. 6 in the San Felipe in California's last start. This is a colt that likes to come off the pace, a son of Pleasant Colony, and the red-hot rider from California, Kent DeSomo, the '89 Eclipse Award winner, who just won his first Grade 1 race, is here in Kentucky looking for his Grade 2 race victory today, the Lexington Stakes. There's the field for the Lexington. The favorite right now bouncing back and forth between 30 Slews at 5-2 and Smelly at 3-1. But we know what you're looking for. That's a horse that'll pay the price. We're talking about a Lexington Stakes Budweiser long shot.
Our Budweiser long shot is Home at Last. This 3-year-old Kentucky-bred colt has been away from home for some time. In fact, that's his mother's name, Away from Home. This runner's been on the road competing at Arlington Park last summer and in Florida over the winter. And he was very comfortable in his home away from home at Gulfstream Park, where he won 3 of 4, including his last start in the preview stakes. His victory was one of a pair of $200,000 races for trainer Carl Nafsker and jockey Jerry Bailey on that fine Florida afternoon. And now he's back where he was bred, here in the Bluegrass. Yes, Home at Last is Home at Last. And we think he might just get home first as today's Budweiser long shot. Well, let's take a look. First of all, there is Home at Last warming up, and Jerry Bailey wearing the red, white, and black, and taking a look at the tote board 8-1. That's not a bad price. That'd be about an $18 mutual for Home at Last. And Jerry Bailey won this race when it was known as the Calumet Purse back in '83 and for the 10 years before that. But Jerry Bailey is aboard Home at Last, and it'd be a nice mutual for the number 5 horse, who is the Budweiser Long Shot. Now, there are 2 finish lines here at Keeneland, and we're going to be using the first of the 2. The second one was used for the Bluegrass Stakes, but because they start this race directly in front of the grandstand and they want to get a good run to that first turn, that's why we do it. And then the first of the 2 finish lines is used. So we hope that Home at Last for the Bud Long Shot is going to be home first. Big crowd here on a Tuesday afternoon. A gorgeous day. Wish you were here in person to try and pick your horse for the Lexington. We'll be back with all the action and color from Keeneland right after these important messages. Stay tuned.
Another Breeders' Cup Championship moment. Hollywood Park was the site for the inaugural Breeders' Cup, and a capacity crowd witnessed a star-studded field in the first race, the $1 million Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Chief's Crown lived up to his billing as America's best 2-year-old with a determined drive to the wire.
They're inside the final furlong, and here comes Chief's Crown on the outside. He's taken the lead, and a champion is crowned.
Chief's Crown provided the first Breeders' Cup Championship
The
moment.
clubhouse, more than 15,000 on hand on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon as we bring you the odds. 30 Slews and Smelly been battling back and forth all afternoon for the odds-on favorites role. The fans like him at 3-1 right now. They're the favorites. Slew of Angels at 6, as is Big Easy. Home at Last at 8-1. Then it's Arm for Peace, the big price at 60. Cordoba 3, the longest shot in the field, is Slingshot at 80. And then it's Pleasant Tap at 10-1. And Chelsea, that brings us to a story of this colt with so much speed in this race. Here's one that likes to close, and maybe one worth watching, the 9-horse Pleasant Tap.
Well, he's come all the way here, originally intended for the Bluegrass Stakes. He's another one of those colts who came out of the San Felipe, which gave us Silver Ending winning the Arkansas Derby last weekend. He got off of that West Coast track, came here, was training well, got a cough, had to miss the Bluegrass. If he's tight enough for this race, he'll be along to pick up some pieces, because there's plenty of early heat in here, and he'll be running at the end.
All right, let's go upstairs now and see how Dave Johnson handicaps the Lexington Stakes.
Well, Chris, I just can't throw out the number 2 horse Smelly. His last time out that he caught a fast track, that was 3 outs ago in Florida. He was an excellent second in the Fountain of Youth to Shotgun Scott. But I'm not sold on him because of the presence of 30 Slews. Now, here's a horse who's never been the distance, but he's got a lot of speed from the rail, and his times at 6 furlongs in those 2 victories at Santa Anita were very impressive. He's by Sloopy, who won the mile in a 16th Young America at the Meadowlands, so I think he can go the distance. He's working well. He could get to the front and just not look back. You could just see a blur of yellow blocks there when the man says go. So he's my top choice, and I bet him win in place, and I've used him in an exacta box with Smelly and the Bud Long Shot. So I've got 1, 2, 5 in my exacta box, but when I looked at the whole field, I decided that 30 Slews was the horse for win in place, and he's 3-1. I thought he'd be a little bit higher. He was 9-2 in the morning line. But I got the 1, 2, 5 box. I like 30 Slews, Chris.
All right, Dave, and as they parade towards the post here, the starting gate set here at Keeneland, a mile and a 16th the distance. And with that distance in mind, Chelsea, you note that 30 Slews has never been past 6 furlongs. Cordoba over from England, despite 2 starts, has never been past 7 furlongs. Distance at this point.
Well, of course, we've got, it's only a mile and a 16th of speed could carry, but some of these colts who are going around 2 turns for the first time have to prove it. It's interesting to note that a horse like Armed for Peace, who has never been off the board in his entire career, including placing in the Remsen and the Nashua, is really sort of being overlooked today. He, again, will profit from that early pace and could be along to pick up some pieces at the end there.
The previous stakes at Gulfstream Park, won by Home at Last, and not getting really a lot of respect or support here at 8-1.
Well, certainly 30 Slews will be setting those early fractions. His trainer called him intimidating. He ran quarters in 21-3 and 21-4 in California. The question today is, can he transfer that West Coast speed to the East Coast? That's always an issue.
And I know he's a little bit concerned about a deep racetrack here at Keeneland. You take a look at the red, white, and blue, the stars. Those are Ronnie Lamarck's racing colors, being carried by George Velasquez today on Big Easy. The 4-horse loads as they now bring the 6 in. We're going to go to the top of the stands. The man who called the Lexington Stakes for us, Dave Johnson.
Boy, this has turned into a real good betting race. 3.5-1 for 30 Slews and Home at Last, and Smelly is 3-1. and 4-1 on Cordoba. Long shots have won this race. War paid $35 3 years ago, and Stefan's Odyssey paid an even $3 as the odds-on choice. Now here's Pleasant Tap, whose daddy, Pleasant Colony, won this race, won the Kentucky Derby, excuse me, and Kent DeSormo is the rider. All in line, and they're off. And from between horses, home at last, but there goes 30 Slews at the rail. 30 Slews takes command, and Smelly alongside challenges early. Then comes Big Easy on the outside. From between horses, Slew of Angels, and on the inside, home at last moves up around the first turn. On the outside, it's 30 Slews leading it by half a length, as Slew of Angels on the inside takes position in the second spot by 2. Then Smelly is racing third at this point at the rail, home at last. Jerry Bailey saving ground, fourth by a head. Big Easy on the outside is fifth. Cordoba between horses sixth. Pleasant Tap at the rail is seventh by 2. Then comes Slingshot, and it's 4 lengths farther back to the trailer, Armed for Peace, who's ninth, about 15 lengths off the lead. The half in 46 and 4. They continue down the backstretch, and it's still 30 Slews who's trying to take it as long as he can up on the front end. Smelly is in second position right there. Along the inside, that's Slew of Angels third. Home at last looks comfortable in fourth position, followed by Pleasant Tap fifth. On the outside, Big Easy, then Cordoba, then Armed for Peace, and Slingshot. Midway on the turn, it's still 30 Slews with Delahousie on the outside, holding on by a head. But here comes the Bud Long Shot, home at last on the outside to challenge. A quarter of a mile to go. Home at last with the Blaze face, and on the outside, home at last takes command. In front by 2 lengths, Pleasant Tap coming on into second position at the rail. It's 30 Slews third, and down the stretch they come. It's the Bud Long Shot, home at last, with Jerry Bailey in front and winning the Lexington by a length and 3/4. Pleasant Tap gets the play spot, and about 7 lengths farther back, 30 Slews was third. Home at last, the 5-horse at 7-1 gets home first.
And home at last, this Bud's for you. We just finished telling you as they loaded, the Premier Stakes winner down at Gulfstream Park was not getting much respect. Carl Nasker a little concerned about a deep racetrack here, and it fit him well after his journey at Coldstream. And how many times have we seen these Florida horses come off, go to other tracks, and perform so well throughout the spring? Home at last. Will he join Unbridled now, Carl Nasker's stable for the Kentucky Derby? Not this one. He is not Triple Crown eligible. We'll be back in a moment. The Budweiser Long Shot returns to the winner's circle with Jerry Bailey and the Russell Reineman Silks. This gray colt, a Son of Quadratic, out of the Ack mare Away From Home. Winner of the preview stakes at Gulfstream Park in Florida. We told you he's placed in all 7 of his starts and unofficially has won the Grade 2 Lexington Stakes. The time of 1:43 and 2. A little more than a second off of the stakes record here held by Stefan's Odyssey back in '85 over a fast racetrack this afternoon. Again, Jerry Bailey, the rider, he went off at 7-1, the Bud Long Shot, and Jerry Bailey, quite a smile on his face, and quite a spring for him down in Florida. And we're going to take now a closer look at this victory by the Long Shot. Home at last, we join Dave Johnson again.
On the backstretch, it was 30 Slews, the gray gelding with Delahousie aboard, who had not been past 6 furlongs, and he was in front. Then Slew of Angels was second. Smelly on the outside with Cruguet wearing the white cap was third. And as I said during the call of the race, Home at Last looked so comfortable in fourth position. And as we watch the action, we see that Jerry inches the horse forward into third. At this point, 30 Slews begins to tire. And on the outside, here comes the vastly improved Home at Last. And Jerry twirls the whip, looks over his left shoulder and sees that nothing is coming at him, and he sets sail for home. Now on the outside, here comes Pleasant Tap with the Kent DeSormo, closing swiftly, trained by Chris Speckert, and is going to get the play spot by a mile, but it is still Home at Last. The Bud Long Shot home first. Chris?
All right, thank you very much. As you're looking again at Jerry Bailey on a Home at Last. This great colt owned by Russell Reineman, trained by Carl Nasker. Again, a reminder, he is not Triple Crown nominated, so he will have no opportunity, obviously, to go on to the Big 3, starting with the Kentucky Derby, then the Preakness and the Belmont. They are still circling him. Now they're just now starting to take him into the infield area. They have not made it official here at Keeneland, so we're going to take a break, wait for him to put the prices up. We'll return to make it official. Our Bud Longshot home at last, heading to the winner's circle at Keeneland.
Sormo, who just put up one of the sharpest rides of his young career to finish second on Pleasant Tap. Kent, you had a rough time going around the first turn.
Well, I tell you, Chelsea, I was caught 10 wide and 9 wide in this course, and it was short run into the turn, and we were just a victim of circumstances throughout the entire course of throughout the entire race. Even turning for home, we was in trouble, really nowhere to go, and the winner scooted away from us, and unfortunately we couldn't get back up to him once we got out.
Well, this colt missed some time, and it was a big, big performance. You are replacing Eddie De La Houssaye now. Will this be your Derby now?
This is him. Hopefully we can get the roses.
Well, if the way he's closing through the stretch here, 1.25 miles will be right up his alley, and you're in good form right now. Won your first grade 1 Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
San Juan Capistrano, go catch a plane right now, Ken.
Thank you.
See you in Louisville. Back to you, Chris.
All right, and they've made it official here at Keeneland, and the prices look good if you're a Bud Longshot player. Let's take a look at the official prices now. Home at last in 143 and 2 for the mile and a 16. $17.20. How's that, fans? $7.20 and $4. Pleasant Tap, $9.40 and $4.80. And 30 Slews, making just the third start of his career, furthest he's ever gone, $4.20. The exact of 5 and 9 returns $85.20. Pete Axon was not here, so we did not have a chance for the exacta for you today. Our official order: Slew of Angels 4th, Armed for Peace 5th, Big Easy, Ronnie Lamarck 6th, Cordoba 7th, Slingshot 8th, and Smelly, again one of the favorites in the race, finishes last. Not sure exactly what happened to him. When we come back, we'll talk to the winning connections of our Bud Longshot as home at last heads to the barn for a Bud. Brilliant ride by Jerry Bailey. We just said it's nice to win for friends. Mr. Russell Ryman just stopped by. I remember you guys from Wise Times, and I asked him how come he didn't nominate the Triple Crown. He said, I didn't think he was that well developed, but I should have known Jerry would have gotten him that way. He's quite a man, and it's a nice colt for him.
It's fun to win for friends, and my wife and I are good friends with Mr. Ryman, and it's just he comes up with nice horses all the time. It's a pleasure to ride for him.
Jerry, let's turn for home and tell us how you got him to the wire first.
Well, he's a pretty easy horse to ride because you can move on him several times in a race. And I had already eased outside Eddie here. I figured this horse was a sprinter and might stop.
The big white blaze, Jerry in the white cap here.
And he accelerates when I ask him. It's a short stretch, so I moved fairly early on him, and nobody was really gaining any ground that I could see. He's just a pleasure to ride.
Congratulations, Jerry. Well, Carl Nasker, we know, is not going to the Kentucky Derby. Let's find out his plans with Charles C. Kennedy. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thanks, Chris.
I can ask both of them, because right now I've got Russell Reineman, the owner of Home at Last, Carl Napsker, the trainer. Congratulations to you both. But, Mr. Reineman, you must be a little sorry this horse isn't eligible for the Kentucky Derby.
Well, Carl talked to me about it, and he and I thought it over and said he's just not quite developed enough to go for a race like that. And I'm very happy we're doing what we're doing. There's so many wonderful three-year-old races around the country this year.
Long future for him. And Carl, how come this colt doesn't get any more respect than he does?
I really don't know. The last 3 races he was in with unbeatables and he wins. But he's a good colt and he's never been beat 2 turns yet.
What'll you do now?
We'll talk to Mr. Reineman and we'll look at the horse and see where we want to go.
All right, congratulations to both of you. And right now we go back to Chris.
Thank you, Charles. You know, every spring for more than 30 years, executive columnist, the Daily Racing Forum, Joe Hirsch, has been doing a column every day called Derby Doings, updating everybody on the 3-year-olds heading to that first Saturday in May. Well, we have Mr. Hirsch ready to give you the latest, an update on Derby Doings as we go inside the Daily Racing Forum with Joe Hirsch, our executive columnist, and our Derby Doings update just for you.
The latest is that Champagne for Ashley will not run in the Derby as people have reassessed the situation since Sunday. They decided that a little more time would be in the best interest of their colt. They're going to wait for the Preakness on May 19th. There is some other news to be had. Chris McCarron will now ride Silver Ending, the horse that won the Arkansas Derby, thereby reuniting the John Henry team. And Angel Cordero will ride Land Rush for trainer Wayne Lucas. And many other jockeys are maneuvering at this present time to get on some other good Kentucky Derby horses. There was a very good workout by Mr. Frisky at Churchill Downs on Sunday. He won 7 furlongs and 127-4 over a very tiring racetrack, and Lattice Barrera is delighted with the move. There was a workout this morning at Churchill Downs by Summer Squall, the Bluegrass winner. Trainer Neil Howard was very pleased with that move. So the main figures in the 1990 Kentucky Derby are moving forward toward that goal in very good fashion.
Derby doings available every day after the Derby and the Daily Racing Form, America's turf authority. Well, those are Derby doings. Now let's get some Derby thoughts from one of our experts, Dave Johnson.
I have never seen the racing community split like they have this year. Mr. Frisky and Summer Squall, and there is a gulf between them. I haven't seen Mr. Frisky in person, but I've seen Summer Squall. Last year in the Hopeful, he got bumped and jostled. He shot through a little hole, and he won like an old pro. In the Jim Beam this year, fast time, terrible racetrack, no urging. He ran behind horses. He got dirt in his face. He had to be taken up at one point. And it looked like Summer Squall won because he wanted to win. That's the kind of horse that I'd want in the Kentucky Derby.
Well, I agree with Dave. Mr. Frisky and Summer Squall are certainly the horses to beat in the Kentucky Derby, but we've got a lot of depth on the bench. We've seen a horse or two out of this race today who run well going 1.25 miles unbridled. There's plenty on the sidelines waiting to step in if anybody makes a mistake. The most important issue between now and the 5th of May, as anybody knows in this business, is luck. The horses have got to train well. They mustn't have any mishaps. Everything has got to go perfectly because there's no time for any mistakes now. It'll be a good one next Saturday. Chris?
Well, we're not going to be able to judge these 3-year-olds until after the Triple Crown, certainly. But for me, it is a media delight. We've got, of course, Mr. Frisky, the undefeated. We have Summer Squall, owned by all kinds of